The first knock was sharp enough to cut through the wind. The second came faster. She froze with her hand on the kettle, listening. Another knock. She opened the door. 2 boys stood on the porch. Thin, pale, coats too big. A man stood behind them, the silver badge on his chest catching what little light there was. "Don't ask where from," the sheriff said. "Don't ask why. Just take 'em." She looked at the boys. One kept his head low. The other stared straight at her. "I'm not running a home. You're running a farm, and they'll work." She kept her hand on the doorframe. "I don't take in strays. They're not strays. They're mine to place, and I'm placing them here. I've got my own work. Then they'll make it lighter." The kettle started to hum behind her. She didn't move. "You paying me?" "No." "Then why would I?" "Because you owe me." Her eyes tightened. "That's a cheap card to play." "It's the only one I've got." The older boy shifted his weight. The younger one's shoes were untied. She stepped out onto the porch. "How long?" "Until I say." "Could be a week. Could be a year. Could be." The wind tugged at the younger boy's sleeve. She looked at his thin wrist. "I'm not feeding trouble." "They're not trouble if you keep 'em busy." "What's their names?" "Don't need to know. That's not how I do things." "It is now." The kettle's whistle rose behind her, sharper now. She glanced over her shoulder, then back to him. "If they so much as start something—" "They won't." She studied his face. It gave nothing back. "Fine." He nodded once, turned to go. The boys didn't move until he stopped at the edge of the yard. "Go on," he said. They stepped past her into the house. She shut the door. The whistle filled the kitchen as she crossed to the stove. She took the kettle off, poured water into the pot. The boys stood near the table, still wearing their coats. "Sit," she said. They sat. "You hungry?" The older one nodded. The younger didn't answer. She tore bread from the loaf, set it down between them. "Eat." The older boy grabbed a piece, bit hard. The younger just stared at the bread. "You don't eat?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the floor. "Later." She leaned against the counter, watching them. "Where'd you come from?" Silence. "Didn't think you'd answer," she said. "Don't matter. While you're here, you work. Barn's out back. Chickens need feeding at dawn. You touch the well, you answer to me. You don't touch my husband's tools. Understand?" The older boy nodded. The younger's eyes stayed low. She poured herself tea. "Sleeps in the back room. You keep it clean. You leave the kitchen when I tell you. You don't go in the parlour." "What's in the parlour?" the older one asked. "Nothing for you." He chewed slow. "You got someone buried out there?" Her cup stopped halfway to her mouth. "Eat your bread." "Wasn't trying to eat." He looked at the younger boy, then back to the bread. The kettle still clicked on the stove as it cooled. "You talk too much," she said. "You don't talk enough." Her eyes held his until he looked down again. The younger boy pushed the bread away. "You don't like it?" she asked. He shook his head. "It's fresh." "I'm not hungry." "You were when you knocked." His voice was small. "We didn't knock. He did." She sipped her tea. "Makes no difference." The older boy reached for the bread again. "What do you want us to call you?" "Ma'am works fine." "You married?" Her gaze flicked to the empty chair at the table. "I was." "Where is he now?" "In the ground." The older boy glanced toward the window. "That fresh?" She set her cup down hard enough to make them both flinch. "You'll keep your questions to yourself." The first knock was sharp enough to cut through the wind. The second came faster. She froze with her hand on the kettle, listening. Another knock. She opened the door. 2 boys stood on the porch. Thin, pale, coats too big. A man stood behind them, the silver badge on his chest catching what little light there was. "Don't ask where from," the sheriff said. Don't ask why. Just take 'em." She looked at the boys. One kept his head low, the other stared straight at her. "I'm not running a home. You're running a farm, and they'll work." She kept her hand on the doorframe. "I don't take in strays. They're not strays. They're mine to place, and I'm placing 'em here. I've got my own work. Then they'll make it lighter." The kettle started to hum behind her. She didn't move. "You paying me?" "No." "Then why would I?" "Because you owe me." Her eyes tightened. "That's a cheap card to play. It's the only one I've got." The older boy shifted his weight. The younger one's shoes were untied. She stepped out onto the porch. "How long?" "Until I say." "Could be a week. Could be a year. Could be." The wind tugged at the younger boy's sleeve. She looked at his thin wrist. "I'm not feeding trouble." "They're not trouble if you keep 'em busy." "What's their names?" "Don't need to know. That's not how I do things." "It is now." The kettle's whistle rose behind her, sharper now. She glanced over her shoulder, then back to him. "If they so much as start something—" "They won't." She studied his face. It gave nothing back. "Fine." He nodded once, turned to go. The boys didn't move until he stopped at the edge of the yard. "Go on," he said. They stepped past her into the house. She shut the door. The whistle filled the kitchen as she crossed to the stove. She took the kettle off, poured water into the pot. The boys stood near the table, still wearing their coats. "Sit," she said. They sat. "You hungry?" The older one nodded. The younger didn't answer. She tore bread from the loaf, set it down between them. "Eat." The older boy grabbed a piece, bit hard. The younger just stared at the bread. "You don't eat?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the floor. "Later." She leaned against the counter, watching them. "Where'd you come from?" Silence. "Didn't think you'd answer," she said. "Don't matter. While you're here, you work. Barn's out back. Chickens need feeding at dawn. You touch the well, you answer to me. You don't touch my husband's tools. Understand?" The older boy nodded. The younger's eyes stayed low. She poured herself tea. "Sleeps in the back room. You keep it clean. You leave the kitchen when I tell you. You don't go in the parlour." "What's in the parlour?" the older one asked. "Nothing for you." He chewed slow. "You got someone buried out there?" Her cup stopped halfway to her mouth. "Eat your bread." "Wasn't trying to—" "Eat." He looked at the younger boy, then back to the bread. The kettle still clicked on the stove as it cooled. "You talk too much," she said. "You don't talk enough." Her eyes held his until he looked down again. The younger boy pushed the bread away. "You don't like it?" she asked. He shook his head. "It's fresh." "I'm not hungry." "You were when you knocked." His voice was small. "We didn't knock. He did." She sipped her tea. "Makes no difference." The older boy reached for the bread again. "What do you want us to call you?" "Ma'am works fine." "You married?" Her gaze flicked to the empty chair at the table. "I was." "Where is he now?" "In the ground." The older boy glanced toward the window. "That fresh?" She set her cup down hard enough to make them both flinch. "You'll keep your questions to yourself." "It's done. I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't?" He hesitated. It felt like I should say it anyway. The older boy leaned back in his chair. "You're making it worse." "Better than pretending nothing happened." She set her cup down. "Enough." Silence settled again. She looked at them both. "You finish your work today and keep your mouths shut. We'll get along." The older boy grinned faintly. "We'll try." The younger boy nodded. "Good," she said. When they left the room, she stayed by the table, fingers resting on the wood. Her tea had gone cold. She picked up the cup, poured it down the sink, and went to the barn. The air inside was warmer than outside, but still carried the smell of hay and damp wood. She walked to the back wall, leaned against it, and let her eyes close. Her breath came hard. The sound of the younger boy's voice replayed in her head. "Morning, Eli's mama." She slammed the barn door shut and stood in the dim light, alone. The barn was still cold when she stepped inside. The boys were already there, standing by the door like they didn't know where to start. She pointed toward the stalls. "Clean them out, all of them." The older boy grabbed the pitchfork. "You got a lot of horses?" "Had," she said. "Now I've got work." He smirked and went to the first stall. The younger boy followed, head down. "Scrape the floor clean," she told him. "Get every bit." "Yes, ma'am." The sound of straw and muck hitting the pile filled the air. She kept her eyes on them, watching how they moved. The younger boy worked quiet, steady. The older one took his time, glancing at her too often. He stabbed the fork into the straw, leaning on it. "Heard your husband's badge is still in the house." Her eyes locked on him. "Who told you that?" He shrugged. "Small towns talk." "Keep your mouth shut." "Just asking." "You're not here to ask." He went back to work, but his smirk stayed. Yet the younger boy kept shoveling, avoiding their eyes. She walked past them to the feed bins. The air was warmer here, smelling of hay and dust. "Was he a good sheriff?" the older boy asked. She didn't turn. "He was what he was." "Bet folks remember him. They remember what they want." The younger boy's voice came soft. "My pa used to say that." She glanced at him. "Where's your pa now?" He looked down. "Gone." "Gone where?" "Don't know." The older boy snorted. "You know. You just don't want to tell her." "That's enough," she said. They went quiet except for the scrape of the fork. By mid-morning the stalls were clean. She sent them to the chicken yard. "Scatter the feed, don't waste it." The hens clucked and pecked around their boots. The older boy tossed grain wide, like he wanted to hit the fence. The younger one poured careful circles near the coop. "You feed animals like you feed people," she told him. "How's that?" the older boy asked. "Shows whether you care if they come back." He smiled faintly. "You think we'll come back?" "You're here, aren't you?" "For now." She left them to finish and went to the shed for the axe. There was wood to split before noon. When she returned, the boys were arguing in low voices. They stopped when she came close. "What was that about?" she asked. "Nothing," the older boy said. The younger boy shook his head. Didn't ask for a story," she said. They followed her to the woodpile. She handed the axe to the older boy. "Let's see if you can do something useful." He set the log on the block, swung the axe, missed the center. "You'll tire yourself out," she said. He lined it up again, split it clean. "Better? Better." The younger boy carried the split wood to the stack without being told. By the time the sun slid higher, the work was steady. She watched them more than the wood. They moved like they'd worked before, but not here, not on a farm like this. After lunch, she had them draw water from the pump, carry it to the troughs. The older boy carried the buckets with a swagger, spilling more than he kept. The younger one carried slow, shoulders hunched, but didn't spill a drop. "You take too long," the older boy told him. "I get it there," the younger replied. "That's enough," she said. When the last trough was filled, she sent them to the far field to check the fence line. She watched them walk out, the older boy always a step ahead. She stayed behind, went into the house. The kettle went on the stove again, though she didn't plan to drink it. She just wanted the sound. By the time the boys came back, their boots were caked in mud. "Fence is fine," the older boy said. "You check every post?" "Every one." The younger boy looked at her. "Some boards were loose." The older boy shot him a glance. "They were fine." She kept her eyes on the younger. "Show me after supper." The older boy muttered under his breath but didn't argue. They ate in silence. Bread, stew, nothing special. The younger boy kept his eyes on his bowl. The older boy tapped his spoon against the rim until she told him to stop. After supper, she followed the younger boy out to the fence. He showed her where the board shifted under his hand. She nodded once. "We'll fix it in the morning." Back at the house, the older boy was by the stove. "You keep his badge in that drawer?" She shut the door harder than she meant to. "I told you to keep your mouth shut about that." "I was just looking." "You look too much." He grinned. "That a bad thing?" "It can be." The younger boy came in behind her, quiet as always. When the lamps were lit, she told them to wash and get to bed. They didn't argue this time. She heard them moving in the back room, the low creak of beds. Later, when the house was still, she went to check on them. The older boy was asleep, one arm flung over his face. The younger boy lay curled, blanket pulled up. Something caught her eye on the bed beside him. She stepped closer. It was a small wooden horse, worn smooth, chipped at the edges. Her chest tightened. She reached for it, turning it in her hand. It was the same as the one she'd placed in her son's coffin. Same grain, same carved mane. She looked at the younger boy. His breathing was steady, eyes closed. She put the toy back exactly where it had been, turned, and left the room without a sound. In the kitchen, she poured out the kettle. The sound of water hitting the sink was louder than it should have been. She stood there a long time, hands braced on the counter, before blowing out the lamp. The house went dark, but she didn't sleep. The wooden horse was still in her hand when the knock came. Not a polite tap, a slow, measured knock, like someone taking their time to be heard. She didn't move at first. The horse's carved mane dug into her palm. Steam from the stove drifted low across the floor. The knock came again. She opened the door. The sheriff stood there, hat low, coat buttoned against a wind that hadn't yet reached her porch. "They talk in their sleep?" he asked, not stepping inside. She narrowed her eyes. "What?" "The boys. You hear them at night?" "No." "You listening?" "I sleep fine." That wasn't my question. She shifted her grip on the doorframe. "Why'd you bring them here?" He looked past her, into the dim kitchen. "Because they ain't safe anywhere else." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." The horse was still in her hand. She kept it low, out of sight. "What's not safe?" He leaned one shoulder against the frame. "You don't need to know that." "I think I do." "No," he said flat. "You think you want to?" She didn't move. The kitchen behind her felt heavier somehow, like it was waiting for him to leave. "They working?" he asked. "They're working." "They giving you trouble?" "One of them talks too much." "Which?" "The older." "Then shut him up." Her jaw tightened. "Not my job to shut people up." His eyes flicked to hers. "It's your job now." Silence stretched between them. The wind finally found the porch, rattling a loose board near the step. "They got nowhere else to be," he said. "They could have stayed where they were." "No, they couldn't." He straightened, hand brushing dust from his coat. "Don't let them near the well after dark." She blinked. "The well?" He didn't explain, just repeated, slower. "After dark." "Why?" "You want me to stay and tell you stories, or you want to keep that farm of yours running?" "That's not an answer either. That's all you're getting." He stepped back off the porch. The boards groaned under his weight. She called after him. "You planning to come back again?" "Maybe." "For what?" "For when you start hearing them talk in their sleep." Then he walked to his horse. Didn't look back. The crunch of hooves on the frozen dirt road carried long after the figure of him was gone. She closed the door. The latch clicked louder than usual. In the kitchen, the wooden horse lay on the table now. Its paint was worn thin at the edges. She touched it once, then drew her hand back as though it burned. Through the window, the barn leaned into the wind. A shadow moved between stalls, one of the boys, slow and sure. She watched until the shadow stopped. Then she pulled her coat from the hook. Outside, the air smelled like iron. The ground had gone hard from the night frost. She walked past the barn, past the chicken run. The well stood in the far corner of the yard, older than the house. The boards over its mouth were nailed tight, but the rope hung there still, frayed and stiff. She had nailed those boards herself the winter after Eli died. She had never told anyone why. Voices carried faintly from the barn, just the scrape of a broom, the thud of a boot. She turned back towards it, the house. Inside she found the boys at the table. The older one looked up, bread crust in his hand. "That was the sheriff?" "Yes." "What did he want?" "Nothing that's your concern." The younger boy glanced at the horse on the table. "That's pretty." Her eyes snapped to him. "Where'd you get it?" His fingers traced the shape of the crust. "It was here." "It wasn't. I found it." "Where?" "In my bed." She stared at him. "When?" "This morning." The older boy smirked. "Looks like somebody's giving gifts." She didn't look away from the younger. "Do you know what that is?" He shrugged. "That's not a shrug kind of question." "No?" "You sure?" "Yes." The older boy leaned back. "Heard your husband's badge is still in the house." Her head turned sharp. "You keep your mouth shut about my husband." "Just saying what I heard." "You didn't hear it here?" "No," he said, slow. "Guess I didn't." The kettle hissed on the stove. She let it scream for a while before taking it off. They ate in silence after that. When night came, the wind rose. The boards on the porch rattled again, the same way they had when the sheriff stood there. She checked the latch twice. Later, after the lamps were out, she went to the boys' room. The older one was asleep, one arm flung over the side of the bed. The younger lay on his back, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. "You need something?" she whispered. "No." "You sure?" "Yes." She looked to the corner where the wooden horse should have been on the table. It was gone. She turned before she could ask him. The air in the hallway felt colder than the rest of the house. From her own room she could see the shape of the well through the window. A pale figure stood next to it, too small to be a man. Still, staring down. The air was sharp enough to sting. Her boots struck the frozen ground in quick, hard steps. The lantern in her hand swung with each stride, throwing short bursts of light ahead. The outline of the well rose out of the dark, squat and black against the yard's edge. The younger boy stood beside it, head bent over the open mouth. She grabbed him by the collar and pulled him back. "What in God's name are you doing?" His eyes were wide but calm. "Listening." "For what?" Her voice was low, clipped. "For Eli." The sound of his answer landed hard. She tightened her grip. "Don't you say that name again." "Not again," she cut him off. Footsteps scuffed behind them. The older boy came up, breathing steady like he hadn't been running. "We weren't doing nothing wrong." "You call standing over the well at night nothing wrong?" she snapped. "We weren't going to jump in." "That's not the point." The younger boy shifted in her hold. "I only heard something." "You heard nothing." "Yes, I did." "What?" "A knock, down there." She turned her head toward the dark circle of the well. The air inside was colder than the night. She felt it at her ankles. She shoved the younger boy toward the older. "Both of you. Back inside." They didn't move. I said now. The older boy frowned. You scared of it? Get in the house. You are. She stepped closer to him, her shadow swallowing his. If you ever bring him out here again, I'll send you both packing, sheriff be damned. He stared at her for a long second before muttering, Wasn't my idea. Doesn't matter. Inside, the house was cold. She set the lantern down and went to the drawer where she kept the keys. Pulling one out, she marched back outside, the boys trailing behind her like shadows. She dropped the wooden cover over the mouth of the well and slid the key into the lock. The metal bit down with a dull click. She pocketed the key. The older boy smirked faintly. What's that supposed to do? Keep you out. We could get it open. Try, and you'll regret it. The younger boy's voice was quiet. Why don't you want us there? Because it's not a place for you. You ever listen? Not once, she lied. You don't believe in him? Her hands were cold around the chair, key in her pocket. You don't know what you're talking about. Eli's your boy, the younger said. She looked at him until he dropped his gaze. You don't say his name again. The older boy muttered, Seems like everybody's scared of something here. Better scared than stupid. That why you locked it? 'Cause you're scared? She took a step toward him. I locked it because you don't belong near it. Sheriff said the same, the younger added. Her eyes snapped to him. When did he tell you that? First night. Said not to go near it after dark. And you thought that meant come stand over it? I thought it meant there was something to hear. The older boy smirked again. Guess there is. She pointed toward the stairs. Bed. Now. They didn't move. I said, now. Finally, they went, slow and stubborn, footsteps heavy on the old wood. She stood in the kitchen, hearing the boards creak above. She waited until their steps stopped. Only then did she breathe. Her hands were still tight around the lantern handle, the metal hot from the flame. Upstairs, doors closed. The house settled. She blew out the lantern and climbed the stairs herself. In the hallway, she paused outside their room. Muffled voices drifted through the door. She's scared, the older boy said. Don't think so. She is. That's why she's mad. She knows something, the younger said. Yeah. Their voices dropped to a whisper she couldn't make out. She stood there another moment, then went to her own room. She undressed in the dark and slid under the quilt. The wooden horse toy she had found earlier sat on the table by the bed. She didn't touch it. The wind outside moved in long, low breaths against the siding. She shut her eyes. Then she heard it. A faint, deliberate knock. Her eyes opened. She held her breath. The knock came again, slow, spaced out. Not from the door. Not from the walls. From outside. She sat up, listening. The knock came a third time. She knew where it was. The well. Her breath left her in a slow, thin line. She stayed still, head turned toward the window, though she couldn't see it from bed. The knocking stopped. She waited. Minutes passed. Only the wind moved now. Lying back down, she stared at the dark ceiling. The key was still in her pocket, the metal pressing into her thigh. She could feel its cold shape through the fabric. Her mind went to the younger boy's words. Listening for Eli. She shut her eyes, but the sound stayed with her. 3 knocks. Slow. Waiting. The morning sun hadn't warmed the kitchen yet. She moved quickly, quiet as a shadow slipping through the house. The boys were out in the barn, herding the animals. She didn't wait. Their packs lay tossed in a corner, rough canvas sacks, worn leather straps. She knelt down and tore one open. A folded bundle of papers slipped free. She unfolded them, careful despite their damp edges and faded ink. Her breath caught. The handwriting was jagged but familiar. Letters addressed to her husband. Dated 10 years ago. Water stains blurred some words, but others were sharp enough to cut. Accusations of corruption. Mentions of missing children. Names whispered but not spoken aloud since he died. She pulled out another letter, then another. The past spilled into her hands, tangled with the present in a knot she hadn't expected to find. Footsteps thumped behind her. She spun. The older boy stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "What you doing in there?" "Looking through your things." He didn't flinch. "You found what you were looking for?" "These letters belong to my husband. They're old." "So?" "He said you'd know what to do with them." She held up one crumpled page. "Why do you have these?" "Don't know." "Don't know?" He shrugged, uneasy now. "I just keep what he gives me." "Who is he?" The boy looked away. "Someone from before." "Before what?" "Before you showed up. Before all to his." She pressed. "Did he tell you what to do with the letters?" "No." "You think you're helping him?" "Maybe." The words hung in the stale kitchen air. She folded the letters carefully, shoved them into her coat pocket. "Tell me everything you know," she said. He hesitated. He said my family was caught up in it. The missing kids. The cover-up. The sheriff didn't want it out. Her hands clenched. She thought of the well, the locked doors, the silence that had swallowed so much before she arrived. "What did your family do?" The boy shook his head. "Not sure. They ran. Left me behind." "Why?" He didn't answer. The younger boy appeared then, standing in the doorway like a ghost. "We should go. It's cold." The older boy nodded, relief flashing in his eyes. She stood, eyes still on the floor where the letters had fallen. "Stay here." They waited as she grabbed the kettle and set it on the stove. Steam hissed into the kitchen, mixing with the tension. When the water boiled, she poured hot tea into cups and set them on the table. She slid the letters across. "This is your past," she said. "You want to be part of this farm, part of this life. You have to be honest." Neither boy spoke. She reached out, took the oldest letter back and lit a match. The flame caught quickly, licking the edges of the paper. The boys watched silently as the letters curled, blackened, turned to ash in the bowl. But one letter she folded carefully, slid into her pocket. Her fingers traced the words she knew by heart already. Dusk slipped over the yard like a slow shadow. She saw the older boy digging behind the barn. The blade of the shovel sliced through the hard earth, throwing clumps of dirt aside. Her heart tightened. She didn't move at first, just watching, the air thick and cold. Then she stepped forward, boots crunching on dry leaves. "Stop," she said, voice sharp. "What do you think you're doing?" He didn't look up, hands steady on the handle. "Digging." "For what?" "For Eli." Her breath hitched. "Eli's not coming back." "You don't know that." The younger boy appeared behind her, eyes wide in the darkening light. "He's coming back soon." "Who told you that?" she demanded, moving closer. "No one," the younger said. "We just know." "Know what?" "That someone's coming back," the older boy said without looking up. "Someone's got to be sent back." "Sent back?" Her voice dropped, disbelief shaking it. "From where?" They exchanged a glance, silent, like sharing a secret too heavy for words. "You think digging a hole is going to bring him back?" she spat. "This isn't some story you're telling yourselves to feel better." "It's not a story," the younger boy said quietly. "It's a promise." Her eyes searched the hole in the ground, fresh and uneven, dark against the fading sky. "Why here?" she asked. "Why behind the barn?" The older boy finally looked at her. His eyes were darker than the night coming on. Because this is where he belonged. Her stomach twisted. Eli's been gone for years. The younger boy knelt by the grave's edge, hands brushing loose soil. He's waiting. Waiting for what? For the right time. The wind stirred. Leaves rustled like whispers around them. She knelt down beside the hole, hands trembling. Her fingers brushed something buried just beneath the surface, a small dirty bundle wrapped in cloth. She pulled it out slowly. A child's shoe, rotted and cracked, stained with dirt and time. Her breath caught in her throat. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. The boys looked away. "It's been here a long time," the older said. "Found it while digging." Her hands clenched around the shoe. "This isn't right. You shouldn't be touching this." "Why not?" the younger asked. "Because it belongs to something you can't fix." "Maybe we can." Her voice rose. "No, you don't know what you're dealing with." They didn't answer. She stood, dusting dirt from her hands. "Finish what you start, Ted, and leave it be." The boys worked silently, covering the grave halfway before stopping. The earth lay loose, a wound open in the yard. She watched them, anger and fear tangled in her chest. Then she turned and walked inside, slamming the door behind her. She locked every door, every window, the sound final in the cold house. Outside, the wind whispered over the half-buried grave, carrying secrets only the earth could hold. The pounding started just after midnight, hard, insistent. She lay in bed, heart jumping, eyes wide open in the dark. The knocks turned to fists, fists to something heavier. Someone outside screaming her name. Then a voice calling Eli's, a voice not her husband's. "Open up!" The older boy's voice cracked through the door. "We have to," the younger whispered. "Don't," she snapped. "Please, the well. Not open, not again." "They're coming." "Who?" "The ones we sent back." Her breath caught, every muscle tense. "Stop this now!" "No," the older boy shouted. "They're here." "Who's here?" "Don't you feel it?" The younger boy's voice trembled. "He's calling. Eli." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Your children playing with fire." The door rattled as something slammed against it, hard enough to shake the house. "Open up!" She clenched her fists, face wet with sweat. "No." "Mom," the younger whispered. "Please, get away from the door." The noise stopped. Silence hung thick, broken only by their ragged breaths. Then a low groan, not human, came from outside. Her skin prickled. She backed toward the window, peered out. Shadows moved in the yard, shapes shifting like smoke. "We have to open it," the older boy said quietly. "No. They need him. Not here." "Why not?" "Because he's gone." "Not really." Her voice dropped. "He's dead." "No. You're wrong. Not wrong." She shook her head. "Go to bed." They didn't move. Outside, the night stretched, long and black. Then something slammed against the house again. The younger boy screamed, "Open the well!" She ran to the door, threw it open. Cold air hit her like a blow. The boys were gone. The well cover was missing. She looked behind the barn. The grave was freshly filled, the earth pressed down hard and new. Her heart hammered. She dropped to her knees, hands trembling. In her pocket, the letter burned like a secret. She pulled it out, unfolded the paper. 3 words, written small but clear. "You kept him."